The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
I've been thinking more about Mitt Romney's speech at the NAACP convention yesterday, where after bringing up that he would repeal Obamacare, he got booed and then it got incredibly awkward. We had that video yesterday. I watched the speech more extensively in more detail and saw some parts of it again. And it became abundantly clear that the plan never was to go in and actually convince black people to vote for Mitt Romney. Everybody knows that black people are overwhelmingly not going to vote for Mitt Romney, probably by somewhere between an 85 to 92% margin. They're going to be voting for President Obama. That we can agree on, I think.
Yes.
That being said, what was the advantage? Why was it that Romney was going there? Well, it's pretty clear why he was going. He was going to attract other voters, right? Mitt Romney has a problem convincing the Christian right, convincing the Tea Party right that he has the conservative credentials that they want, and certainly going somewhere and being booed by black people, especially since Barack Obama also is black, is going to actually help him with those people. Of course, it'll help him with racists. Racists will love it, but it will also help with the group that associates being black with being liberal and wants to see Mitt Romney in situations where it seems like liberals, aka black people, don't really like the policy.
Okay.
Do you agree?
I agree.
Okay, so now that being said, what about those people that Mitt Romney said we're happy to see him there, right? Because in interviews after the convention, Mitt Romney went on Fox News, of course, and said, no, afterwards I talked to black people. There were black leaders that were very thrilled with what I was saying. It was all great. Well, this is fascinating. It turns out that Mitt Romney appears to have flown in black people that like him and just met with those people after the NAACP convention. This is a little bit of an interview from yesterday's Ed Schultz show. Now, Ed Schultz had NAACP Washington Bureau Director Hillary Shelton on and asked Hillary Shelton, who are the black leaders that Mitt Romney was meeting with? And Hillary Shelton basically saying, yeah, it was basically just the people that he flew in. So let's go ahead, Lewis, and see if we can get that up and running. I think it's just going to be a second here. What's your reaction to that? If it's true, is this a scandal? Is it a big deal, or is it just kind of what we expect from Mitt Romney?
It is a big deal. I mean, it's dishonest, and it proves that black leaders do not like Mitt Romney.
But again, if he's not trying to actually impress black people, then what difference does it make?
Because just this coming out that he flew them in is going to make things worse for him.
You think so?
Of course.
All right, here we go. Let's take a look at some of that video.
Names. Who are these people that came up to you and said they're actually going to support you? Hillary Shelton, I got to ask you, do you know about these secret meetings after the speech today?
Well, I'm not surprised. Quite frankly, the campaign actually gave me a list of African-American VIPs that they brought into the NAACP meeting.
Right.
So we were aware that they had people brought in specifically for the campaign. So I'm sure those are the ones they sat down with, because quite frankly, none of the rank-and-file NAACPers met with him.
Of course not.
You gotta love it. So basically we've got a two-sided front here. Number one, Mitt Romney goes in and he maybe deliberately or maybe just negligently angers actual NAACP members and attendees and black people in order to look better with the Christian right. And at the same time, he goes in claiming he's going to meet with NAACP people, and it's actually just black people that already support him that he specifically flew in to meet with him to make it look like he has more support from black people. Unbelievable that he's doing this. And again, most people won't care. If anything, this will help him because a lot of the Christian right wants to see that Mitt Romney is not a weird Mormon, as some evangelicals see him, but is a conservative who black people also don't like, much the same way that they don't like a lot of the religious right. That's what they want to see.
Next, I hear he's going to speak to the AARP and talk about how he's going to get rid of Social Security and the Medicare.
He's going to talk to the AARP National Convention and say he's going to get rid of wasteful stuff like Medicare, but then he's going to fly in a bunch of senior citizens that agree with him because they're already super rich. They don't care about Medicare. It's going to be perfect.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Incredible strategy. So let's get on to a couple of other Mitt Romney topics. Another important one is this accusation that's flying back and forth now about whether Mitt Romney is or is not an outsourcer. Now, Mitt Romney has put together a bunch of commercials that are hitting Barack Obama, accusing him of being outsourcer in chief and all sorts of other stuff. Now, I actually looked at a bunch of these commercials. There are some that in the full 30 seconds There is not any actual fact presented about why Barack Obama is being accused of being an outsourcer. You hear the ominous music, and then you hear, what else do you hear? You hear the narrator say, Barack Obama outsources jobs. Don't vote for Barack Obama. He doesn't care about American jobs. Vote for Mitt Romney. Basically that for 30 seconds. Absolutely not a single actual fact presented there. Where do we actually have facts? Well, we have facts in Mother Jones today in a great piece of reporting by David Korn. David Korn is now revealing that Mitt Romney has invested millions of dollars when he was at Bain Capital in a Chinese firm that profited directly, actually, let me go further, that depended exclusively on American outsourcing to make money. Did you hear what I said, Lewis? Depended exclusively on that. Unbelievable.
Yes. I believe it.
Well, here are the details. To give you some background, last month Mitt Romney's campaign got into this back and forth because the Washington Post put out an article saying that Bain Capital invested in a number of U.S. companies which outsourced jobs to China and India. Then the retaliation was, well, it's not true. Well, it wasn't when Mitt Romney actually worked at Bain Capital. We say he left in February of 1999. Well, the Boston Globe today has a report out, which we have not independently confirmed, but the Boston Globe is reporting that it's actually not true, that it turns out that Romney may have been at Bain Capital for months or even years after we are hearing that he left in February of 1999. Let's put that aside completely. For a second, let's buy into the Romney propaganda that Romney had nothing to do with anything at Bain Capital that took place after February of 99. Just for now, let's buy into that.
Okay.
Let's look at what we can find before February of 99. Well, as David Korn says, and this is incredible, Mitt Romney was involved in investing in a company, Chinese manufacturing company, called Global Tech Appliances, based in Hong Kong, which depended on U.S. outsourcing for its profits, and actually said explicitly that outsourcing from the U.S. to China was crucial to its success. Okay, in other words, Romney invested in a company, millions of dollars in a company, that outwardly stated that it depends on the U.S. sending jobs to China for its survival, and the company survived, meaning that the U.S. continued to send jobs to China under the Bain-Romney investment. Okay, now this again runs counter to this idea that Romney is tough on China. Romney is going to, what did he say?
Bring jobs back to America.
Bring jobs back to America, not outsource jobs to China. Maybe it's a conspiracy. Maybe what he did was outsource all these jobs to China.
So he can bring them back.
So now he can bring them back. Maybe that's the strategy. It's the grand conspiracy theory about Mitt Romney. Somehow I don't think so. Somehow I think he's just lying. He said, we will not let China continue to steal jobs from the U.S. And of course, he was part of the reason that was happening.
If he became president, he'd probably outsource the presidential cabinet to China.
There you go. It'd probably be much cheaper. You could save a ton on healthcare.
I know.
So April 17th, 1998. Then
you can rent out the White House.
He could rent out his car elevator.
Yeah.
You could get a ton of indigent workers living actually in your car elevator if it's big enough.
Why not?
Hell of an idea. April of 1998, Brookside Capital Partners Fund, which was a Bain Capital affiliate, filed a report with the SEC saying it acquired about 6% of Global Tech Appliances. That's the Hong Kong-based company. It manufactured household appliances in Dongguan, China. According to another SEC filing, Brookside added more to its investment, adding to 10% ownership. Both SEC filings identify one Mr. W. Mittens Romney as the sole shareholder, sole director, president, and chief executive officer of Brookside Inc., one of these subsidiaries of Bain Capital. That's it. You know, do I really need to go through all the details? It looks like around, if you estimate around $19 a share, purchase about $14 million in the company that Mitt Romney held. That's what it is. You know, it's just lies. When you see those ads that say Obama's the outsourcer in chief, ominous voice, ominous music, no fact, question it and realize that it's actually Mitt Romney who's doing the outsourcing.
And this is the business experience that people love about Mitt Romney.
Right.
Right?
This type of business experience, outsourcing jobs and supporting companies that depend on the outsourcing of jobs to China, that's what's going to make him a good president. That's what we're hearing.
The man knows how to make money, but it's going to come out of your pocket.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did Mitt Romney pose as a police officer and pull people over when he was in college? It appears that he did. As we know from Mitt Romney's experience, on Mitt Romney's son's appearance on the Conan O'Brien show. Mitt Romney really likes playing pranks on people. He doesn't really like being pranked. I think we learned that, didn't we, Louis?
We did.
So it has now surfaced that when he was in college, Mitt Romney used to get his rocks off by impersonating a police officer wearing a police uniform that apparently his father obtained. It was a Michigan police uniform, and pulling people over. A former friend of Romney said, quote, "He told us he had gotten the police uniform from his father, George Romney, then the governor of Michigan, whose security detail was staffed by uniformed troopers. He said he was going to pull over drivers on the road. He also had a red flashing light that he was attached to the top of his white Rambler. We thought it was all pretty weird. We thought, wow, that's pretty creepy. And after that, we didn't have much interaction with him."
This is also illegal, mind you.
This is a misdemeanor punishable by up to a year in prison. And if you actually use the uniform in the commission of a crime, then it's actually a felony, and then you're escalating it even further. It is kind of creepy, right? And what it tells me, not only of what we already know, that Mitt Romney pulled a number of pranks of questionable ethical standing, that he had this incredible desire to fit in as kind of a normal guy, which probably drew him to do a lot of these things. That and maybe some sociopathic behavior.
Just things that end up making it clear that he is by no means normal.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
it works out kind of making him stand out even more, and maybe he didn't even realize it at the time. So the story has been told almost identically in The Real Romney, which is a book about Mitt Romney, as well as by a number of other students. Disturbing stuff.
There's no putting lipstick on this pig, is there?
You really can't.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
He wants so desperately to just appear to be a normal guy. What can you do? That's what he did.
Okay, mittens.
Shave the hair, cut the hair off of a kid who you perceive to be gay, impersonate a police officer to pull people over, so on and so forth. Also, part of that, there was a prank, I guess, he played where he pulled over a couple of people that were on some kind of date. And also part of that was, as a police officer, one of his friends had planted some alcohol, a bottle of alcohol, in the trunk of the car he pulled over. And part of the whole thing was to find the alcohol by searching the trunk. Hilarious stuff. Misdemeanor, crime, but hilarious pranks. What a prankster.
Yeah. Also, these people could have been seriously, actually legally in trouble had they been pulled over by an actual cop who found the bottle of liquor.
Right. So realistically, this also endangering. Now, again, it doesn't seem that Mitt Romney actually put the bottle of liquor in the back of the vehicle. It just seems that it was part of the plan for him to find it.
Yeah.
Very different. Of course, that clears him of any responsibility.
No doubt.
On today's bonus show, we will talk about Russia considering burying Lenin, who's been embalmed in Red Square since 1924. We'll talk about a form of heavy metal called black metal, which Lewis is very familiar with, that is anti-Islamic, and all of the dangers that are associated with that. We'll also talk about, this is unbelievable, Starbucks now really expanding its business model, moving into a funeral home. Starbucks in a funeral home. If you're not getting the bonus show, you should get it. Producer Lewis hosts it. It's on audio and video, available for members. You can find out more at davidpakman.com/membership. We'll take a break. We'll be back. We'll talk about the 33rd time that House Republicans vote down Obamacare. Don't worry, it's pointless. And plenty more. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
The David Pakman Show is mostly supported by individual members and by people helping us out through the Amazon.com link at davidpakman.com. Anytime you shop at Amazon.com, use the banner at davidpakman.com, bookmark it, use it every time you shop. The membership program also made possible in part by liberalbias.com. The more you look for it, the more you find it. Liberal Bias is everywhere. Find out more at liberalbias.com. I want to say hi to a new David Pakman Show member, Lewis, Jessica Lancaster. Jessica Lancaster is someone that has joined and is now supporting the David Pakman Show. What can we say about Jessica Lancaster?
We think the world of Jessica Lancaster.
She, like as Sean Hannity would say, is a great American.
Yes.
Unless she's from Australia or a different country.
Yeah, you don't have to be American to support the David Pakman Show.
Absolutely not. That's the great thing. Unlike on the Hannity Show, It doesn't matter whether you're American or not. Here, we don't make these associations. If you want to support, you want to support.
And we should be careful. We don't want to insult anybody either by calling them a great American. They might resent America.
Well, they might resent being associated with Sean Hannity.
That's more likely.
The House of Republicans have voted for not the first time, not the 10th time, not the 20th time, not the 30th time either, but the 33rd time to repeal the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. 33 times. And of course, it's going to go absolutely nowhere because it's not going to get past the Senate. President Obama, certainly, if it did, would veto it anyway. Let's hear a little bit from our orange friend, John Boehner, about the vote, about Obamacare. And I do warn you, this is going to be, it's almost, you would think he would almost be tired of repeating these false talking points at this point, but he's not. He's still doing it. Let's take a listen.
Around Ohio last week, and people kept asking the same question: where are the jobs?
Right.
That's why this week the House will vote to repeal Obamacare, which is driving up the cost of health care.
Okay, so let's pause it right there. People were asking him in Ohio where the jobs are. Therefore, the logical extension from that is to vote for a 33rd time to repeal something which will actually create jobs in the long term and has nothing to do with why there aren't jobs in Ohio. Okay, step one, let's continue.
And making it harder for small businesses to create jobs. Meanwhile, the president is out there calling for a tax increase on American job creators. How raising taxes on small businessmen and women will help our economy, I can't quite figure out.
Okay, let's explain that, because that's a good point. This is interesting, ladies and gentlemen. John Boehner is one of 435 members of Congress elected by their constituents to represent the constituents on a number of issues, including social and economic, educational, etc. And he doesn't understand the economics of how rolling back or allowing certain tax cuts on high-income Americans would allow jobs to be created. Interesting. Oh, okay. Well, as we know, Lewis, when you give a tax cut to the very richest people, it actually doesn't create any jobs because they don't really need that money, and nobody's ever made hiring decisions, at least not if they're intelligent, based on tax cuts. As we know...
Right, but won't the rich stimulate the economy and create more jobs themselves if they're getting a tax cut?
Personally, they'll take the extra money and they'll just give it to people. Even if they don't need to hire them, they'll just give poor people money. Is that what you're saying?
They'll open up a plant in Idaho.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So as we know, rich people will save that extra money. It makes absolutely no difference to them. They're already rich. But as we know, if you allow tax cuts to be given to people who actually need that money, they will spend that, in turn creating demand and actually allowing businesses to hire. John Boehner doesn't get that. Okay, let's hear a little bit more from him.
And frankly, I don't think the president can either. That's why later on this month the House will vote to stop the coming tax hike, to make sure that small business owners have some certainty about what the tax rates are going to be. And
okay, this is just garbage. The last thing is we have certainty, because under the plan Obama's proposing, and this is being missed by a lot of media outlets, everybody will continue to get a tax cut on the first $250,000 that they earn. So we're not taking away those rich people. They're not losing the tax cut on all of the money they earn. They're losing it on what's above and beyond the first $250,000 a year they earn, or depending on whose plan you follow, the first $1 million a year they earn. Everybody's getting the same tax cut for the first $250,000 per year that they earn, which of course is 90-something% of the economy.
Right.
A lot of people not understanding that. Let's put up the voting graph just to give you a comparison of what the House has been doing. They have voted on, during the 112th Congress, on repealing the health care bill 33 times, as you can see there. They have voted on, in the Senate, on the Jobs Act 1 time. The House has not voted at all on the Jobs Act. And the House has not voted at all on the Layoff Prevention Act. Interesting. If you're so concerned with jobs, what about voting on the Jobs Act and the Layoff Prevention Act to create jobs and prevent jobs from being lost, instead of voting 33 times to repeal something that is just never going to make it past the Senate? I don't know. Maybe I'm naive and stupid.
No, we're used to this, right? This has been going on for close to 4 years.
Maine Governor, Republican Governor Paul LePage, invoked Nazis in his weekly radio address. He said, "We the people have been told there is no choice. You must buy health insurance or pay the new Gestapo, the IRS. So, of course, this is very common, invoking Hitler, Nazis, or anti-Semitism when you talk about things that are completely unrelated and completely bogus. I don't think we're surprised here. It will be interesting to see, however, because Maine is becoming, although it's typically a somewhat more liberal state, even though they do have Susan Collins in the Senate and they have Republican Governor Paul LePage in right now, Maine is a state that, as far as health insurance and education, is not at the bottom of the barrel in the country. Maine is planning, like a number of Republican-led states, on not instituting a lot of these policies that are part of Obamacare, kind of in defiance of socialism. I don't know, in defiance of the president. Who knows what they're defying? In any case, it'll be interesting to see how the states move in the rankings as we get further down the line in terms of health care, as we see some states not employ these new provisions and some actually employ them. Are these going to shift or further? For example, we saw Rick Perry in Texas saying he'll have no part of Obamacare. Texas already at the bottom of the barrel in terms of health. Will they continue to sink? Or if Rick Perry is right, you would assume they would turn it around and they would rise to the top, right?
That would be the plan. Maybe after all the provisions of Obamacare actually go into effect, if Rick Perry is right, then we will see an increase, right? They
should at least move up in the rankings, no question. Newt Gingrich making his first comments about the Obamacare ruling by the Supreme Court, saying that John Roberts' Obamacare ruling was, quote, probably healthy for the country. But don't get too ahead of yourself. Gingrich is still very much against Obamacare. He went in and said, I've been curious as to why Roberts took this particular route. But in a way, because I really do believe we want a less interventionist court, placing the political decision back on the American people, I think, is probably good. This is actually accurate so far. Newt Gingrich saying the right thing. The Supreme Court is not a tool to be used for political gain or for a solution to problems that you can't solve with political solutions. Let's back up. Let me start over again. The Supreme Court should not be brought in when the laws that are passed you don't like. And that's basically what we saw through all of these lawsuits leading all the way up to the Supreme Court decision a week or two ago. Newt Gingrich is right on that. No question about it. Yep. However, he goes on and he says, what Roberts has said is, yes, it's constitutional because of a gigantic tax increase. And if you don't want the gigantic tax increase, you've got to beat Obama. You don't just want to come to the Supreme Court to bail you out. And I happen to think that part of it is probably healthy for the country to be forced to confront. That's their burden, basically making the argument that, hey, this is another reason to get rid of Barack Obama, because you can't rely on the Supreme Court. You've got to get someone in office who won't pass this stuff in the first place. Will this be an effective message? I don't know. Does anyone care what Newt Gingrich says anymore?
Not really.
If people did, you'd think he'd be the nominee.
Right, the nominee.
Yeah, or either. Dr. Drew Pinsky. You know Dr. Drew Lewis, of course, from Loveline and his Headline News Show and Celebrity Rehab and Celebrity Sober House.
Celebrity doctor.
He's a celebrity doctor, exactly. I always actually thought that he was relatively competent, and he being a psychiatrist and my dad being a psychiatrist and having heard a lot of the different things that both of them talk about over the years, my impression was Dr. Drew was at least to some level trustworthy and competent, okay? That may still be the case as far as the competence, but we may not really be able to trust that the opinions he's giving are unbiased, because we now are looking at a number of different reports, including now, thanks to the Justice Department, we know about a payday that Dr. Drew received that was big enough to cause some concern. As part of its huge $3 billion settlement with pharmaceutical giant GlaxoSmithKline, the Department of Justice revealed documents that show that Dr. Drew had taken close to $300,000 for, quote, services for Wellbutrin. Now, what does that mean, Lewis? Services for Wellbutrin. What exactly was he doing? Well, it turns out, Wellbutrin being an antidepressant, that according to the government complaint, Dr. Drew was hired to, quote, deliver messages about Wellbutrin SR in settings where it did not appear that Dr. Drew was speaking for GlaxoSmithKline. So this is incredible
advertising.
Stuff. Basically advertising and making it seem like medical advice. Pinsky suggested that Wellbutrin might be responsible for increasing a woman's orgasm rate to as many as 60 orgasms in a good night. According to an internal GSK memo, it said that Dr. Drew was, quote, communicating key campaign messages about Wellbutrin to the public. Now, of course, The orgasms are an off-label use of Wellbutrin, as you might imagine, Lewis. It's not actually illegal for Dr. Drew or other doctors to promote or prescribe off-label uses. It would be illegal, however, if GlaxoSmithKline was officially marketing those off-label uses. This seeming to be kind of in the middle because Dr. Drew was being paid by GSK. Kind of a gray area, but as far as we know right now, charges are not being filed.
So if he actually believes that this drug is a good thing, is this okay?
Well, that's the thing.
Is there any morality there if he truly believes in the drug?
Let's talk about that. Dr. Drew said, my comments were consistent with my clinical experience. In other words, he wasn't saying anything about Wellbutrin that he didn't personally experience in his clinical prescription of that medication. If that's the case, and if he is not going to be influenced by getting $275,000 from GSK to talk about this, why would, number one, why would GSK even want to pay him, right? Because if he's going to say only what he has observed clinically, what's the point of paying him? He's going to say the same thing either way. Case in point, if they didn't think that he was going to be influenced by the money, they wouldn't have paid him. They paid him for a reason. Very, very clear, Lewis.
Yeah. I think there's probably a good chance he just wouldn't be dropping the name as much if he didn't receive $275,000.
Also, we found out about a $115,000 payment that Dr. Drew received from Janssen Pharmaceuticals, and there's controversy about that, about whether Dr. Drew's saying it was just for an education program, but very, very sketchy stuff. So bear this all in mind. It's interesting to hear about what is going on with Dr. Drew, only because, not specifically about Dr. Drew, but it is interesting when you take someone like Dr. Drew. Someone else that comes to mind is CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta, right? Commenting about medications, commenting about investigations. It would be very interesting to know, because he is seen as somewhat of an authority and a trustworthy person. When you need to know about the real efficacy of a medication, you go to Sanjay Gupta if it's CNN. If we found out he was being paid by certain pharmaceutical companies, it would be very important to know that. Same thing here, I think. Interesting stuff to look at.
We've also learned that being a celebrity doctor is quite profitable.
Yeah, that's really the big thing that we're learning here. Very, very profitable. Let's take a break. Facebook.com/David Pakman Show. Like us on Facebook. Heading towards 10,000 Facebook likes. We'll be back with more after this. We'll talk about yet another cannibal. Very weird.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. It's Thursday, time for Worldview with Dennis Campbell. Dennis is editor-in-chief of UK Progressive Magazine and getting ready for a trip to China. Dennis, tell us about the trip and where you're going to be.
Well, I've been contributing for the last 5 years now to a expat foreign language service called China Radio International. And they're beamed pretty much all over the world from Beijing, but to mostly the expat community that is English speaking and living in that part of the world. And one of the drawbacks, of course, living in the UK is that when it's 10 o'clock in the morning in airtime there, it's about either 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning my time. And the format of their program is absolutely fabulous. It's a full 1 hour, full-on panel discussion. And they typically put me as the more progressive-leaning person opposite a fire-breathing right-wing Republican. And we go at it for about an hour. Well, I got an email about 3 weeks ago from the good folks over there, and I didn't really pay immediate attention to it because I just thought they were asking, you know, can you be on the show in a week, 10 days' time to talk about the U.S. election or whatever. And I didn't notice, but it was actually a very prestigious invitation to their 5th year anniversary celebration. So the radio service is 5 years old, and they've invited me as well as 14 other people to come and be part of a very broad cultural exchange trip across China. We begin in Beijing, which is where they're headquartered, and then we go all the way out to the old Silk Road, which is all the way into the western Jiangxing province, the autonomous region, which is the true melting pot of China. It has 9 countries that border it. You have Russia and Mongolia to the north. You have Pakistan and India to the south. And then, of course, all the stands, including Afghanistan, bordering it. And that brings in a population of everybody from Mongols to Uyghurs to Muslims to indigenous Chinese. And indeed, they've had some ethnic tensions and rioting as recent as March. So I've loaded up the camera and I've loaded up the digital recorder, and I'm hoping to file a number of stories for outlets from that particular region. But it's just a fabulous honor to be a part of it.
So give us a sense. I mean, I'm guessing I know the answer to this, but I think it's an interesting question nonetheless. We've seen documentaries of trips to different countries in Asia where it's all very, very, it's outwardly really a PR exercise where everything is carefully controlled and crafted, what you see, who you talk to give a very particular image to those outside the country. What's your sense about how that will relate to this trip?
Well, I find it interesting because the trip is not necessarily being put together by the government. In fact, it's actually being put together by a media outlet.
Right.
Now, they're going to be doing a lot of programs from the road. So their normal program will be a part of that, as well as interviews for their website and other information. We're all being asked to do an online journal, which will be kind of interesting since we won't be able to do it online, but I'll do it in the old-fashioned handwritten sort of format, and hopefully somebody will take that and translate that and post it, as well as the opportunity to really go into. We're meeting with government officials. We're meeting with people in every one of the major cities that we go to. And I've actually invested in these little pins that have the flag of Wales as well as the Chinese flag, so that should go over reasonably well. But really, it's just an opportunity to sample a culture that does not get a lot of attention in the media, and be able to be in a position to come back, show some of the images of what life is like there, as well as report on the tensions and what's actually going on. You know me, I'm not going to be shut up too easily.
Right. Give us a sense of, are you looking forward to sampling any particular cuisine items while you're there?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm a vegetarian, so that takes a lot of the risk, shall we say, out of the menu options. So I don't have to worry about whether I'm eating Fido or any other of the furry creatures that wander about. I've gotten lots of warnings from many friends on Twitter, and as well as several of your viewers who have said, yeah, don't eat any meat when you're there. I said, well, there's really no problem as far as that's concerned. But it is one of those situations where I'm very interested in seeing, what actually is there, and I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about when I'm back. As a matter of fact, we're taping this in advance, so I'm there right now as your viewers are watching this.
So give us just quickly to kind of wrap up, the economy of China is a topic of much discussion, and particularly to the so-called economic superpowers, including the UK, including the United States. I think that give me a sense of this, but I think it'll be interesting to see in the more remote areas, what is the economy made up of, and what are really the prospects moving forward, particularly depending on whether technology is allowed to become a bigger part of the remote economy or not.
That is a huge issue, and one of the things I'm interested in seeing, because I've done a lot of work on the effects of natural gas fracking and some of the other programs, is this is a very mineral and oil-rich region of China. And I'm very interested to see waste disposal and things of that sort. I really want to have a very good view of how they go about getting the resources out of the ground, at what cost environmentally, and have camera will travel. Hopefully the memory cards will also come back with me with all the photos, and we'll be able to go from there. The only thing that I won't be able to do is I won't be able to use Twitter or Facebook while there. So I'm already experiencing some of the pangs of withdrawal. As you know, I'm a rather prolific Twitterer. And so that will be quite interesting to see how all that plays out. But I'm very much looking forward to being able to be a part of this very unique cultural exchange. And some of the things they've got planned take us to the far north, the far south, all of the various regions, and we really get to experience what life is like for people living in villages, and being part of a media tour. I don't think we're going to be that much manhandled.
I think it's going to be great. We've been speaking with Dennis Campbell, editor-in-chief of UK Progressive Magazine. Dennis, have a good trip, and we'll talk to you when we're both back from our vacation.
Yes, sir, because you're going on holiday for a couple of weeks as well. So
That's right. We'll
see
be
you
out,
in
yeah.
August.
Okay, thanks, Dennis.
All the best.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Become a David Pakman Show member and get the commercial-free podcast, a commercial-free full-length television show, as well as audio and video podcast of the bonus show hosted and produced by producer Louis Motamedi. davidpakman.com/membership to find out more. We're talking pennies a day to support independent media. Ed Rollins, who was formerly involved with Michelle Bachmann's presidential campaign before he dropped out because probably he realized she had absolutely no chance, he says that the Republican Party needs to be less old, less white, and less fat. This is what he said to, I believe it was Gretchen Carlson on none other than Fox News. Let's take a listen to Ed Rollins here, if we can. We're just going to go ahead and just get that video set up, Louis. Do you agree that the Republican Party needs to be less old, white, and fat, or is this just hyperbole?
You know what? I think they're doing just fine. Yeah,
Really?
let's leave things the way they are.
You don't want them to change that?
No.
All right, well, there you go.
Ed Rollins.
That's an idea. Let's get to the video here. We have it. Should we play it? Let's play it.
What's going on?
I don't know. We were just having all sorts of computer problems today. Let's take a look here. We'll just give it a second and see if it can settle in. It's also great because Gretchen Carlson's reaction is just hilarious. Why aren't we able to get this going, guys? Let's take a look here. I don't know. We may have had some kind of a. It's difficult to say, but it may have been a computer freeze.
Perhaps we just got hacked.
Do you think that we got hacked? Is that what's going on? Oh boy,
Anything's possible.
we're having all sorts of trouble. In any case, all right. Well, let's maybe skip the video for now. Let's go to a different story for the time being. Remember the Miami cannibal?
How could I forget?
Well, now we have another story out of Florida where 5 police officers in Florida over the weekend struggled to subdue a naked 22-year-old man who raised hell at a St. Augustine home and bit one of the residents, according to First Coast News. The homeowners woke up and they found their patio furniture had been completely destroyed, and Jeremiah Hoggy was naked on their roof.
It's quite the mugshot.
When the homeowner and his son opened the door to confront Hoggy, they were both attacked by the crazed man. He allegedly bit one of the men on the stomach as they tried to subdue him. When police had arrived, Hoggy was pinned to the floor inside the house, covered in his own urine and broken glass. He struggled when police tried to arrest him, biting and kicking the officers. They had to call for backup and use a stun gun 3 times before they were able to get him in a patrol car in handcuffs and leg shackles. At a hospital, he was given a tranquilizer. Now, here's something interesting. Number 1, he is facing charges of burglary, assault, aggravated battery, simple battery, and 3 counts of battery on a law enforcement official, as well as criminal mischief. There's no plan right now, as far as I know, to actually test him for the influence of drugs. Don't drugs have to be involved here, Louis?
I would imagine so. Drugs or serious mental illness.
Yeah, it has to be one of the two. Why not test the guy? Also, remember, with the Miami cannibal, initially the accusation was the guy's got to be on bath salts. Turned out the only drugs in his system was the only drug in his system was marijuana.
Right.
I would be very curious to know about what's going on here. But also, at what point are these copycat incidents?
Well, hard to say. I mean, is this man in a state of mind where he'd even know about any of the incidents that have been going on?
I have no idea.
Who knows?
But it has to be, what are the odds that all of a sudden we're getting all these biting and people eating other parts of people's bodies? It seems that either there has to be something in the water, so to speak, something environmental causing it, or it's one incident and because it got news coverage, crazed people are thinking, hey, I'll do the exact same thing as a kind of copycat.
Or because of the craze that the original story called, we're just hearing about these stories. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. It could be either. Incredible. Would you if you at this point lost your mind? Would you be likely to eat someone?
No, I don't think so.
What would be your kind of go-to if you lost your marbles and committed some kind of heinous crime?
What would I do?
Yeah, like what do you think, based on your idiosyncrasies, would be the extreme direction you would go in, if not eating someone else?
I cannot even begin to answer that.
Would it be...
and nor do I want to speculate on it.
Like, for example, Krakatoa metal band, which you're in, does a cover song about burning down a church. Would you burn a church down if you lost your marbles?
If I lose my marbles, anything goes.
Okay.
I mean, how would I know? I lost my marbles.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Ed Rollins, GOP strategist, saying that the GOP needs to be less old, fat, and white. Let's give this one more try here and see if we can get the video going.
If Ed Rollins were sitting on the Mitt Romney team, who would you select?
I'd pick Rubio.
You would?
I'd pick Rubio. I think that would be a very exciting choice, and would certainly, we don't win Florida, we don't win the game.
So is that a way that you get away from what some people, when they critique the Republican Party, they say it's just a bunch of old white guys?
It is a bunch of old white guys, and unfortunately a lot of them are fat like me, like Haley Barbour, my former deputy, and others. We need to basically broaden the base. We need to have more women. We need to have more Latinos. We need to have more African Americans.
Okay, so there it is. Ed Rollins being very direct about what it is the Republican Party needs. You know, interestingly enough, he's actually right, but I don't think that the GOP is going to get that without jettisoning the fringe right, without completely shifting polarity, without nominating, someone like Teddy Roosevelt and running to the left of some of the centrist Democrats. You're not going to attract those groups that you desperately do need to attract, particularly because of demographic shifts, including Hispanic voters and younger voters. How is the Republican Party going to remain relevant?
That's what I've been trying to figure out. And, you know, maybe we just don't see it because we live in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. I mean, the South is a very different place.
Yes, it is.
I mean, I just can't see the archaic ways of the right sticking around for too long. But at the same time, we don't really know.
All right. Well, Ed Rollins said it best. Need less old, fat, white guys in the Republican Party. Let's go to voicemails and emails. Now, voicemail line is 219-2-DAVID-P. It's open 24 hours a day. Yesterday, we talked about Lewis hearing strange shrieking, animal-like noises outside of his apartment. The Eggman weighing in on what he thinks those are. Let's take a listen to the Eggman's voicemail here.
Hi, guys. In regards to the debate on whether a Kleenex or a handkerchief is better for the environment, I think you should just shoot a snot rocket right out of your nose, right onto the ground. Nothing, not even maybe a shirt wipe, sleeve wipe, that's about it. I'm sitting on the bus in India like 6 years ago, chickens, goats, kids, families, and I blow my nose in a handkerchief. I happen to have one, okay? I blow my nose, I put the handkerchief in my pocket, and this man says to me, "What do you do with it?" I said, "What?" He said, "What do you do with it? What do you save it for?" "Thank you, Mommy." And he says, "Why do you save it?" And I couldn't understand what the guy was talking about, and then I realized he meant my boogers. He thought I was saving them. He just shoots it out of his nose right on the floor of the bus with all the bird poopies and everything. That's where they should go. No handkerchiefs, no Kleenex, nothing. But I have a really big beard, so it gets nasty. Shalom, brother.
All right, so actually getting the voicemails mixed up. No reference at all to the fox noises outside of, to the fox-like noises, which someone else left a voicemail saying they believe to be a fox. We'll have that voicemail on a different day. Things getting a little mixed up. Let's get some emails in, Lewis, on Mitt Romney being booed at the NAACP. I'm surprised he even got that little spark of applause at the beginning of the clip. Courtesy claps? He really doesn't know his audience, does he? And Obamacare will provide low-quality health care with long wait times and limited choices between physician and patient, period. After a few years, we'll hate it, but it will be too late to turn back because too many people will be dependent on it, like other government subsidies. I disagree that that's what's going to happen, but we will see, won't we, Lewis?
We will see.
And on Rick Scott closing the last and only remaining tuberculosis clinic in Florida in the middle of a tuberculosis outbreak, when do we start charging these Republicans denying the public health care with murder and manslaughter? You're going to have to keep waiting. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon.
That one would probably go all the way to the Supreme Court, though.
And I read a story about a strain of tuberculosis that they described as a drug-resistant superbug. It got its start in Russian prisons. I can't speak to that. I know nothing about that particular strain, Lewis.
There are some nasty strains of TB.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's going to do it.
Okay.
You might want to wrap things up.
That's it for the show. Join us on the bonus show. The show doesn't stop here. DavidPakman.com/membership. Otherwise, we will talk to you on Monday afternoon. Thanks for watching.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.